Hello, welcome back to our Java programming tutorial. In this video, we're going to discuss about the object-oriented programming in Java. So let's start. Okay, so for this lesson, let's create another project. So let's create a new Java program, or Java project. So let's name this OP example. Okay, so no changes whatsoever. So click finish, and then in the src, let's create a package. Let's call this com the example that driver, because this will be the package for driver class. Then let's create a class. Hmm, the name will be driver class, and then let's check the static void main to generate the main method. Okay, so I have a class now. So what are the topics that we need to discuss here is about the creation of class, um, usage of class, about the instance, and the public and public methods. Okay, so to create a new class, let's create another package. I'm separating them into different packages so that you can import them, or you can use how to import those classes. So let's call this package com.example entities. Okay, so we now have two packages, the com.example.driver and then com.example.entities. Then let's create another class inside the entities package. Okay, so let's call this class person. Okay, so I need to show them on both screen. Okay, then minimize this one. Okay, so we have two files right now. The one is the class person, and the other one is the driver class. And if you notice, they have different packages as we have set them to be. So to use a class inside another file or class, you need to import them. If they are belong in the separate package, you need to import. So import com.example.entities. Okay, so asterisk means all of the classes that are included in this package will be uh, imported. You can also specify a single class, which is person. Now, what are we going to do with this person? We need to declare uh, public members first. Let's say this class person has a first name and has a last name, and then it has an age. Okay, so person has first name, which are public. You can see what is the effect of this public keyword when we use this in our driver class. Now, since we have imported it, we can create an instance of that class person. So creation of instance is like this. So first the class name and then your object name, then is equals to new person, or the same as the class name. So what this portion is called a constructor call. Yeah. So constructor call, uh, this is the way you can initialize your members inside the class person. So as you can see, there is no method here for constructor that um, the same as this one, which is a, so you need to declare it here. So this is an empty constructor. Later on, we're going to populate what could be done inside the constructor for the initialization of your members of the classes. Next, so we have now an object of class person. You can now use the instance of that person and then access those members via the dot operator. So if you type na person then dot, you can see that there are some members here that are visible inside the driver class. So one of those members are age, first name, and last name. Now let's use the first name. Let's put first a default value. So person that last name is equals to though. Person that age is equals to 20. Okay, so we have now values here. Next, let's print those details. So hello plus person that first name is much longer. Okay. Plus person last name. So let's do it just like that first. And when you run it, let's see if they captured the output. Okay, so hello John Doe. So we have printed the values that we have put inside the class. Now, you can create multiple objects of the same instance. Let's say person. So let's say this person, this is the person 1, person 1, person 1. Okay. And then you created another person, which is person 2 is equals to new person. Person 2 has a name or has a first name of, let's say, Susan. Baker. Person 2 that age is equals to 25. Sorry, 25 as integer. Okay. Then let's copy this code. Let's change this to person 1. Let's print the age of person 2. I am plus person 2 that age plus years old. Okay, so let's run. Okay, so we have now two instances of class person. So as you can see, we can reuse this entity. It means if you are creating a class, you are creating a new kind of type. So that's why it's called sometimes an abstract data type or a user-defined type. Because as you can remember, we have some default types that we have discussed in the second video of this playlist or series. So we have the integers, the doubles, the booleans, and the strings. And string is a kind of class. So string is created so that you don't need to create an array of characters. So you can use the string instead. So if you have a solution that needs to have you need to create a new defined type or user-defined type, you need to use a class. So each class should be defined in a separate file, Java file, and the best practice is to whatever the name of the file. So for example, person.java should be the name of the class, which is class person. Okay, so let's continue. Next, we don't need to assign the values directly like this one. We need to use the constructor to initialize those values. So the first action that we need to do is to make this member variables as private. So by making this variables as private, we will now have an error here. Okay, so as you can see, I have an error. So the field person.first name is not visible because we have changed it to private. So we need to initialize them in the constructor. So inside the constructor of a class, which is here, we need to initialize them. So I'm using this to specify that this is a member variable. This dot last name is equals to empty, and this dot age is equals to 0. Next, let's create public methods that we can use to set these values. Public void set first name. Okay, so this that first name is equals to, so whatever value here, fname. Next, public void set last name. Okay, the same. And the age. So set age, integer age. This that age is equals to age. So as you can see here, the member variable of the person age is the same as the same. It means that they have the same case, lowercase a, g, and e. But since I specify this, that this age is the member variable using the this keyword, we will have no error here. But if you do this, okay, you will have a the compiler will have a will be confused because what do you mean? This is this age the member of the class, or this age is the parameter of this method? So to avoid the confusion for the compiler, you need to put the this to specify that this is a member variable. Next, let's create a method that will print all of the details. So let's say print details. So system.out.println this that first name, this that last name, and this that age. Okay. So now we need to change this code in the right side, on the left side of our environment in the main method. Let's delete this first. So now we have a person1, let's say person, and it has an empty constructor or empty parameter constructor. So because we don't specify any parameters here. So to initialize those values, you need to call the public methods. So person dot, if you notice the age, the first name and last name, is not visible anymore because we changed them to private, and we added methods that are public, which is set first name, set last name, and set age. So set first name, so let's pass a name, the same, set last name, okay, and then set age 20. Now to print all of those info, we can print details. So now our class will have or our example will be have a shorter uh, implementation because the details is written here. Okay, so if we run this, okay, so it's just like that. So we have just printed the first name, last name, and the age of the info that we have passed in this. If you want to specify multiple values, let's say you want to use a person, or you want to create a 10 objects of the person, you need to create an array of persons. So let's say persons is equals to new uh, person, okay, sorry, the size, which is, let's say, 10. Okay, so and then you need to loop to initialize each one of them. So for int I is equals to 0, I is less than um, persons dot length I plus plus, or let's say this is just 5. So 5 person details. So for each object inside the person, you need to initialize them one by one. So let's say persons I is equals to new person empty. Also, we need also the scanner. Scanner input equals to new scanner. So system.in. We need to import this one. Okay, and then let's prompt the user. So enter first name. Then we can directly add or insert this using the set first name and input that next line. Okay, so let's copy this and enter last name, and then this will be set last name. Then enter age, set age. Now this will be input that next int. So let's remove this extra code. Okay, so next let's print one by one using again a loop. I plus plus. So persons I that print details. So let's create a separator. Person plus I plus details. Then let's okay. So we need to input those 5 names. Say John Doe, Lee. I've inputted the last name in the first name. Okay, so 76. So we have a problem. So we have I think the buffer doesn't uh, push through. That's why the string is also passed between those strings. So that's why we have this kind of an error. Okay. So let's change, or let's add a different input style. Let's add buffered reader. Reader is equals to new buffered reader, new input stream reader system.in. So we need to import them before we can use them. So buffered reader, so import, and then the input stream reader should be imported. Okay, so what is happening there? So for the string, we can use the reader as our input. So we have reader that read line. Okay, so reader that read line. Okay, so it has an error because the buffered reader should be inside a try and catch. So exception EX. Okay, and then put the entire for loop inside the try catch method, or try catch body. So if we have experienced an error, let's print the stack trace. Okay, so let's try this again. So first name John Doe 25. Okay, Susan Baker 30, Henry Mark 23, not 32, let's say. Okay, Press 20, Lillian Park 50. Okay, so we now have different details of the person. Person 1 detail, Susan Baker. Person 0. Okay, so person 0 because the array starts at 0th index, as we have discussed in the arrays and strings video. So we have 5 persons here, but their numberings are started in 0 to 4. So now what really happens here, that's why we change it into buffered reader, is I think because the string that we have input in the using the scanner instance input doesn't push through, and it still resides in the memory, so it populates the next call of the input, that next line. So instead of that, we use the buffered reader. So I have this problem in the scanner when we are using the console for inputting strings inside the loop. So whenever you encounter that, or whenever you want to input or get a string from the console inside the for loop like this one, you need to use the buffered reader. So the implementation of the buffered reader is something like this. So declare an instance of buffered reader, and the parameter of buffered reader constructor is input stream reader, which is specified as system.in, which means it will listen to the input from the keyboard for the console and put them inside the try and catch method here. So for the numbers, there's a problem. So we can use the scanner. But for the string, there's I think a logic error there. So you need to use the buffered reader. Okay, so let's try another example. So um, in our constructor, we didn't specify any parameters here, but you have an option to put some parameters for the initialization of your uh, private members. So as you can see, I replicated the functions of these methods: set first name, set last name, and set age, by using the parameters here. But you can also do this one to avoid the repetition. Just call set first name and pass the variable. Set last name the same, and set age. So we can delete this one. So what is the effect of changing the definition of our constructor? So it means that we will have an error here, here, and here, because our constructor have now a parameter. So let's delete this first. And then let's create a new instance, a person. Sorry. So person equals to new person. And now, so the error is the constructor person empty is undefined. So you need to, one of the suggestions is add an argument to match person string, and int. So let's say John Doe and then the age. So here we have initialized those parameters in the person constructor, and then we can call directly the print details and run. Okay, so we have printed. So it's basically the same. We just minimize some actions there by accepting those values. But if you don't want to initialize first, you need to set them to your initial value, and then let the uh, other methods to set those values, like this one, set first name. You can also use them again. So reader, that read line. Okay, person, let's set last name, reader, that, okay, read line, set age 25. Then as I said, need to put them in the try and catch. Try catch exception. Yes. Because reader is buffered reader instance. Okay, and then let's put these print details below. Okay, so let's run. John Doe 20. So John Doe 20. Okay, so we don't have any prompt because we didn't put some print line for entering the first name, last name, and age. So that is the OOP in Java. I have just covered the basics, and I've covered the constructors, the empty constructors, and the parameterized constructor, the private and public members, the public methods, and how to import and use them in the separate class. We also discussed about the buffered reader because we have encountered some errors during the inputting of strings in the looping. So if you have any questions, please feel free to comment it below, and don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date on these videos. Thank you.